Ultralegendary. The newest rarity coming to Brawl Stars, there has been no shortage of controversy coming alongside of it. Many people think it costs way too many credits, others think it's not free-to-play friendly, and even others say it's unnecessary. However, on the other side, some people say it can be used as a credit bank, and it also allows Supercell to make more revenue. But what are my thoughts? In this video, I'm going to go over some of the pros and cons of adding the Ultra Legendary rarity, and at the end of the video, give my thoughts on whether it was a good update, a bad update, or neither. I'm getting close to 15k subscribers, so I'd appreciate if you guys subscribe to help me closer to that milestone, as well as to keep up with my videos. Second, join our Discord server. We have some fun stuff to do there, like our very own 1v1 ranked called Gauntlet, where you can win some Brawl Talk skins, or simply just have fun. Finally, consider becoming a channel member if you're interested in supporting out the channel and have ample disposable income for some cool perks, like watching videos early or getting to decide on future video ideas. Let's get the basics out of the way. The Ultra Legendary rarity costs 5,500 credits and cannot be obtained in star drops, only on the Star Road. The only brawler currently in the Ultra Legendary rarity is Kaze. This is not a PowerPoint about Kaze, so I will keep it brief. She is basically two brawlers in one, with a unique gadget to switch between forms. With the basics out of the way, let's start going over the pros first, and then the cons. First and most relevant to what's happening currently is the increased mastery rewards with Kaze. Since she is of a new rarity, her mastery rewards have increased by a sizable 50%. For example, this means the amount of coins you get from Bronze 1 is now 1500, and the coins you get from getting Silver 2 mastery is now 3000. This would be a wonderful pro if it weren't for what's happening currently. For context, mastery is getting removed, which means that these rewards are mostly useless, right? Well, no, not really. The timeline of the event means that you can actually get Kaze before the mastery gets removed, and get these increased rewards. However, there is a double-edged sword to this, as Kaze will take a very long time to unlock for many people who don't have enough credits for her, so they won't be able to get these extra rewards. However, people who will be able to get Kaze will also easily be able to get these mastery rewards due to the current insane mastery madness. Secondly, and this is more abstract, but it adds a new rarity for people to be hyped about. We all know the hype that legendaries used to have, and I even made a video on why rarities, especially legendaries, don't feel the same anymore, which you should totally check out. But anyway, it often feels like rarities as a whole don't have the same aura around them that they used to. But this new rarity brings back some of the hype of the old rarities, and feels genuinely rare, or should I say, ultra legendary, and unique. Next, and less abstract, and probably the best pro, is that Kaze can be used as a credit bank. A lot of people who don't want their credits dumped into fame have been asking for a credit bank, and in a way, Kaze is one. She costs so many credits that you will be unlocking her for a very long time, so you can actually use her as a credit bank, as your credits will no longer go to fame and will instead go to unlocking Kaze. My next pro is one that's more indirect but still a pro nonetheless, and it's that it makes more money for Supercell. Kaze herself and the Early Access bundle is definitely a moneymaker for Supercell, and future Ultra Legendary brawlers will also be good moneymakers for them. As we already know, people are willing to dish out the big racks for Kaze, and if Supercell gets money, then in theory, they should be more generous with progression, especially to free-to-play players. However, keep in mind this is very indirect, and maybe the weakest pro. Because of the money-making potential of this rarity, I think there's a very large incentive to make these brawlers very fun to play. We're already seeing this a bit with Kaze, as even without playing her that much, I can tell she is very fun to play. Though not so much so fun to play against. Furthermore, the nature of this rarity means that there's basically no room for error for Supercell, meaning that they will hopefully try their hardest with each brawler of this rarity, making them very fun to play and have unique mechanics. Keep in mind, however, funness is completely subjective, so you might find Kaze fun or you might not. Speaking of uniqueness, let's get into our final pro, which is that Ultra Legendary Rarity potentially will introduce a lot of cool unique mechanics. We're already seeing this a bit with Kaze, who is basically 2 brawlers in one, with multiple sets of unlockables, unlike some of the other brawlers that have multiple forms. This makes me a little excited to see what unique stuff they'll cook up in the future, and if you have your own new mechanic ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And now we come to an end with the Ultra Legendary propaganda. Unfortunately, this next section may be a tad bit longer than the pros section, as you'll see. First off, and probably one of the least important cons, is the $50 price tag of the Early Access Bundle and the precedent it sets. The Early Access Bundle offers a maxed out Kaze, her full pin set, and a rare skin. Now, you may ask, is this worth $50? Well, to Supercell and Waylords, sure. But to the average person, of course not. You could buy a great game for the price it would take to get Kaze a week early, and that's simply just not worth it. You might argue that this just makes Supercell more money, right? But the problem with that is that if it does make a lot of money, Supercell will take that into consideration and might start jacking up prices, seeing that people are willing to pay for it, like the game that must not be named, which is not a future I want to see. To lighten the mood, let's go with a more silly con, but a con nonetheless. All the names associated with this new rarity are pretty cheeks, I can't lie. First off, Ultra Legendary. Seriously, that's the best we can do? Even worse is Kaze's title, Ninja. This is one of the worst and most boring titles ever, let's be real. Let's make the mood heavier with our next con, which is that they added a new rarity to get for a large amount of credits, but no tangible way to get more credits. This is the best way to get a shortage, as the exact same thing happened with hypercharges. When hypercharges were released, there was no new way to get coins, so there ended up being a coin shortage. And I see the same thing happening with Kaze unless they add a good way to get credits. Furthermore, the mastery removal is actually causing a nerf to the amount of credits we are getting, so overall, this does not look like a good situation to be in at all. This leads to my next con, which is that it will prevent the unlocking of other brawlers for a very long time. With the lack of credits that we are going to have, and the sheer amount of credits the Ultra Legendary will take to unlock, there is no doubt that this will take a very long time for most players to unlock. Already, Legendaries take an extremely long time to fully unlock, but Ultra Legendaries will take 45% more credits than Legendaries, which is even worse when you consider that you can't get Ultra Legendaries from Star Drops, while you can get Legendaries from Star Drops. And these both lead to my next con, which is that it's extremely unforgiving for new players to unlock. They have to get basically every other brawler in the game, and then they have to spend an enormous amount of time to collect credits to unlock Kaze. At least new players can get a few legendaries and mythics here and there from Star Drops, but Ultra Legendaries? Nope. It will take an extremely long time before new players are allowed to get Kaze, though to some people that may add to its exclusivity and its aura. Next is one that doesn't really apply to a lot of people, or even a little people, but I suppose it's worth saying. If you like getting more fame, unlocking the Ultra Legendary rarity will prevent you from getting fame for a while, due to just how many credits are being sunk into the brawler. However, only like 0.01% of players probably care about this. Next, there is a big incentive to make brawlers of this rarity very powerful. As I said earlier, the Ultra Legendary rarity has a lot of money making potential, especially with the Early Access Bundle. If a brawler is really strong, it will incentivize more people to buy the brawler early to get max ranks or whatever, but it will end up getting Supercell more revenue. Because it gives them more revenue, there's a big incentive for them to continue releasing these brawlers as extremely powerful. Finally, and this one is the most speculative out of all of these, so take it with a grain of salt. If they are adding a new rarity, what's to say level 12 is off limits? Okay, this might sound wild, but hear me out on this. I'm speaking for everyone on this. No one expected a new rarity to come out. The last rarity to come out was literally years ago, and there were no indications that Brawl Stars were thinking about adding a new one, nor was anyone asking for a rarity above Legendary, or even a new rarity in general. If they can add a rarity out of nowhere after years, what's to say that in a year or two from now, they might add a level 12 out of nowhere? And that's all for the pros and cons. Now for my thoughts. Overall, I really only have one main takeaway. Was this necessary? Like, really, who was asking for this change? Basically no one. There was no push for adding this update, and this update didn't really change any of the big core issues with the game. For example, Mega Pig, which they have been teasing a rework for as long as Travis has been teasing Jack Boys 2, is still yet to receive a rework, and still extremely flawed. And I'm noticing a worrying trend, if you will, with the past few updates. Reworks and updates to things that no one really asked for, and either don't change much, or actively make the game worse. Examples include the gadget rework, the addition of Ultralegendary, and now the removal of masteries. These are all completely unnecessary changes, and are just ignoring some of the big issues that the game currently has. So what's my final verdict? Overall, it's a mixed bag in whether it's good or bad, though I would have to lean a little bit more into being a bad addition. However, whether it's good or bad is not the real concern for me. It's the fact that it's completely unnecessary that's the real concern. Thanks to Asserted Charlie Main and Narcissist for helping with this video. But anyway, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.